Now, before we go, I want to show you a little trick. As we've discussed, the way that ARC is supposed to be used is to place it over the last insert on your output. So here we are going through ARC and everything's great. And now we've finished our mix or our mastering or whatever we're doing, and we want to output our file. Now, of course, you must bypass ARC at this point. So there we go, and we're ready to print. And of course, the reason you do this is so you don't imprint the response correction for your room onto the final master. You want the master to be flat. So understanding that, that's fine. The problem is some people have complained that in the heat of a busy session or whatever, or lots of different sessions in a day, they're forgetting to switch ARC on and off at the right times, and they're accidentally printing with ARC on, or maybe they're working with ARC off and vice versa. Now, a clever way around this is to set up two separate paths, one that you always bounce through and one that you monitor through. Now, in the situation I've got here, I've just got a stereo track going to a stereo bus, and that's it. So I haven't got any choices. But in the background here, I've set up a different scenario, and I'll show you how that works. Now, of course, we're doing this in Pro Tools, but the same approach could be used in virtually any workstation out there, so no secret there. Now, as you can see here, I've got two hidden tracks, one called Monitor and one called Print. So I'll bring those to the front so we can see them, hide that away, and here's how it's going to work. Now, in this case, I'll get the ARC off my stereo master bus. Now, that stereo master bus might have other things on there, you know, compression, maybe some final EQ, whatever you want over your stereo master. So in our case, we've got nothing there, but I'll take the ARC and I'll drag it down to the bottom of my monitor bus here. I'll enable it again, and there it goes. Now, the next step would involve setting up another routing, almost like a bluff routing. It's a real routing, but it's not anything that you're going to listen to. Now, I'll explain that in a minute. I'll bring up the I/O box here. Now, I've set up a little thing here called a print output, and I've set it to output 7 and 8 of my digital setting here. And the reason I chose that is because I'm not actually using them. So it's almost like a false thing here. I'm not using those outputs for real, so I can afford to, I suppose, waste them on this and not lose anything in my setup here. So all you need is 2 analog or digital outputs anywhere in your system that you can afford to give over. And in my case, I've named them print here, and that's all I need. So I'll close that off. Now, opening up this output here, this being my stereo master where everything sums, and that's my mix before it goes off to ARC or before it goes off to my monitoring. In there now, I'm going out my 1 and 2 output. This 9 and 10 is so I can send the music I've got here in this tutorial off to a different recorder, so don't worry about that. But down here, we've got the print output as well. So in Pro Tools, the trick is for me to hold down the control key on the Mac here and hold down the control key while selecting this print. And now I'm outputting to all those things at once. So just to double check that, now print has a check mark next to it. And when I play here, you can see it's going at this print output straight to our bounce bus, which we'll do in a second. And here's our monitor part that we're actually hearing. So I can just leave ARC on all the time, not an issue. And then when it's time to bounce, we would select our piece here. I'll bring up the bounce dialog. And instead of bouncing to my AOUT12, which is my name for it, I'm going to bounce straight to print. Or maybe I want to call that bounce, whatever we call that. And I'll permanently from now on bounce all my jobs at this print bus, and that'll just become a mental thing that you just never forget. And I suppose half the time your bounce box will default to the right path anyway, so it'll be prompting you. But that's it. So this way we get to keep the ARC on the whole time, we get to print without the ARC, and everything's great. So thanks very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next time.